Perfect. Welcome everybody to A Little Perspective. My name is Pranav and I'm joined with my co-host Nikhil. And today we have a very special guest, Bill Pratt. How are you doing today, Bill?
Fantastic. This is a great day. Today I can sit down with two what I would call bright stars in the universe of good people.
Thank you.
And have a conversation about whatever we talk about. That's a good day. It's
100%.
a really good day. So thank you for inviting me here today.
Well, today the conversation is going to be you. So why don't we get the ball rolling by you giving a brief introduction about yourself?
Well, what a open-ended question that is.
Fair
right? So let's see if we can do this without making it sound like a job interview.
Fair enough.
So I grew up in Regina. I was born and raised in Regina, and had an excellent childhood as far as I know. I mean, it was fantastic. I had a chance to play a lot of sports and do things. Never missed a meal. And just, when I think back and I look at our house now, what we grew up in, there were two sisters and my mom and dad. And I think, oh my gosh, this house was really small. Felt like a castle growing up. I didn't realize until I was probably age 18 when I started seeing my friends' homes. I thought, I guess our home's a little smaller than others. I have no idea, right? And I think that's a really great sort of testament or demonstration point of, it was a good childhood. Of course I cried, I fell, I had all those teenage angst, all those things. And then it worked out well. And I was able to, like I said, be involved in a lot of different things which shaped who I am today. And then, since then I've had a chance to live and work in different cities across Canada, having a chance to be in Calgary, Halifax, Winnipeg, Saskatoon for a little period of time. And then came back to Regina, and Regina's home. Regina's got a lot of great things. And I know that's not a lot of details.
Right.
We've got some time to unpack all those details. And that's a little bit about me.
Awesome.
Right. So you mentioned you grew up in a small house, and then you saw other people, they have big houses, but what did you learn in that house? What were the values that you learned in that house? Because it's not about the house, it's about the people that you live with, right? So what were the values that were given to you?
Yeah, and just before I answer that, you talk about it's about the people you live with. It's like when you go out for dinner with your friends. I always say, we could go to the garbage dump and have a picnic on the outside.
Yeah.
I'm sitting with the people that I want to be with, and we could have a great conversation. It doesn't matter, where we're at. Sometimes we think it's the restaurant or it's the ambiance and all that. Of course that helps, right? It's not, and when it's all said and done, though, if you're when you're with your best friends and you think about when you're growing up and the places where you have had your best laughs and the best memories, it could have been just in a car driving down the highway.
True.
Right? So to your question, things I learned, there were a lot of things. I learned about kindness. I learned about generosity. My dad always said, you never loan money, just give. And just kind of this idea of helping others. And I look at how my sisters are, and when you have siblings, you have things in common, and you also know you're all very different. I have two older sisters, and when I see us now, each of us is very different in many respects. And then every once in a while, you see this thing that, oh yeah, we're the same, and it's usually related to generosity, trying to help others as best we can. And we have maybe a quality and something, somehow we learned it in our family. I don't ever remember, just as to emphasis point, I don't ever remember my mom and dad saying, this is how you treat people. This is what you do. Never. It was all by just watching them. And they were always very friendly, very gracious. The door was always open. They always had parties, dinner parties, parties after curling events. They'd come to our house. This hospitality, helping people feel welcome. And never did they ever say, this is how you need to live your life. Never. Nothing prescriptive. It was simply, we just lived a life. Yeah. It all fell on us. And whether that's because our DNA was partially wired that way, I have no idea. I do know that when I look at my sisters and myself, and it's hard to say, because when you are trying to be not trying, but when you are conducting yourself as a role model, as a good citizen, and one of those things is that you don't talk about yourself, because it's not about me. 100% it's not about me. It's about those that I'm around, those that I'm working with. How can I help you? What can we do to make this better? And yeah, you have to do some introspection, saying, okay, what do I need to do to make sure I stay healthy? And because there's only so much in the tank,
right?
For helping others. And if you want to carry everyone's problem, we can't. It's what was that? I can't remember the mythical figure that used to carry the world. Was it Atlas?
Yeah.
On their shoulders. You can't. It'll do you in, and so you have to learn how to modulate that and what can you do. And I don't know if I'm answering your question or not. It's just kind of, we learned a lot by example. It's about being kind, being welcoming. We all love to host. We love to bring people in. And other things, how to introduce yourself, how to shake hands. We're watching my dad, how he would do things. Those little things that maybe they're not a big deal, perhaps they are. And always being trying to, when you go out, always not dress up, just be presentable,
right?
And just being mindful that if you're going to go out, just look your best, be your best at all times.
Right. So you mentioned that your involvement has shaped a lot to the person you are today in front of us. Why don't we expand on that?
Sure. Can you give me? Can you poke me in a way that's going to unleash something?
Of course.
Help me figure out how to help here.
I feel like, why don't we start from the beginning? Like, how have you involved yourself, in the community?
Sure.
So that people know, like, hey, that's Bill Pratt. I love what he's saying.
Okay. I think what. Without turning this into bring out the couch and you guys become psychoanalysts and me stretched out on the couch going, well, that's I think back. So as a kid, again, for whatever reason, I like to help. I always like to help the teacher at the end of the day, clean up and just, help them clean the desks or take the garbage out. Just this thing about what can I do to help you? Mm-hmm. And again, it was nothing that was ever told to us. Just you just sort of fall into it, and the people around me that would be important to me that you watch were like that. And so we learn a lot as individuals by those around us, how they conduct. That's enormous. It's like if you travel to another country, let's say, and yes, you can read all the books about, how to conduct yourself.
Right. And you
also have to have, I guess it's the emotional intelligence to be able to look around and go, all right, how are things happening here? You just got to think it through, and it's more than reading the room. Sometimes we say read the room. You just watch it. How do people conduct themselves in this particular space that I'm in? I grew up in a space where the people around me that I would see most often were helpers.
Okay,
would help people, and so I started with that way, and then just getting involved in different projects in high school. I remember this one. I was in grade 12. We at that time there was. And of course there still is today, drinking on prom night, and all the things that go associated with that, driving, and you fill in the blank with whatever you want.
Sure.
At that time, there was a new program that had just started. It was called Safe Grad, and the idea was, it was almost like, I don't want to call it like a safe consumption site. In many ways, so it's almost like that because
right.
The idea was to help educate our peers in high schools about, if you're going to have a party, fine. We understand everyone's, a significant amount of people may drink to excess. Do it in a place where it's controlled, where you have maybe some adults there. You have a bus that goes from wherever your grad ceremony is to the farm, to the venue, to wherever it is. And then you bring everybody back at 6 a.m. or whatever it is, and you plan all these activities. And that was a new concept back then. That would have been 1981. And it was a provincial initiative, and so I got to be a part of it. I think it was the second year. No, it was the first time. And so that was really exciting. That was and like I said, now today I would say describe that's really a safe consumption site. Mm-hmm. Is what it was. It wasn't like we had needles. It wasn't like when we say safe consumption site today, that's what we think. We think about needle exchange programs and all that. The reality is you're providing a safe environment for people to do something that's going to alter, that's going to change how they might normally behave. And you're trying to keep it safe. That's why it was called Safe Grad. Right. And ironically, I didn't even get to go to the grad party.
Oh, wow.
I went to the grad dinner, and then the next morning I had been invited to try out for the Huskies football team at the U of S.
Oh, cool.
And
awesome.
the camp started the next morning, so we were on the road at 5 a.m. So I missed the whole thing.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so it was really fun, and I think so I can just tell another story.
Sure.
It's I think it was grade 11. In grade 11, I got invited to be part of a student exchange program, and I think so that's you may have be familiar with this. A group of students go from one school where you normally go, and you go to another city somewhere, and you spend a week or 2 weeks there, and then you come. My exchange, there were 10 of us from Regina. We went to a place called Sydney, Montana, which is about I think it's about 2.5, 3 hours south of Regina in Montana. It's a population at the time, it was around 10,000 people. And so we thought that was like a small town.
Right.
You know, this is a small city. And so we spent a week down there. That was extraordinary. It's like, again, being exposed to these different environments and, you know, learning about helping. And this is all in that realm of service,
right?
You know, and although it seems somewhat selfish in the sense that, well, you got to go to City, Montana for a week.
Right.
True enough. I did take a lot from it. We also got exposed to a lot of different things, and you learn your world starts to open up because as teenagers.
In what sense did it open up for you?
In terms of like making friends, seeing another community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd been lucky playing sports. I had, you know, by that time, by age 17, 18, I'd probably flown and been in every province in Canada.
Nice.
So you get to see different things. So often when we're growing up, even as adults, we live in our own community. And our world is whatever borders we put around it. And every time we get a chance to step out, you say, oh, I'm not that different. Oh, there's different ways to do things. Somebody was telling me recently about funeral processions.
Right.
You know, they came from a country that was new. And so when they came to Regina and they saw it, it was like, well, what is that? Why does everyone have their headlights on? And why is is it a rally? Like, what's going on? And so we see these different things by stepping outside our normal circles of travel. And I've always said, and this is like, there's no data to back this up. This is just one of Bill's crazy ideas.
Fair enough.
If you want to do economic development for this province, or for the city for that matter, everybody should get a return ticket to somewhere in the world for 2 weeks. Not an all-inclusive resort, not Disneyland. You know, go to a country in Africa, go somewhere that's not touristy and see how other people live. I had a job once in international development, so I had a chance to travel to different countries, and you start to see people. And I remember, you know, being in rural Ethiopia on this farm in rural Ethiopia. Like, so, you know, it's not the middle of nowhere; it's the middle of somewhere,
right?
You know, which is a terrible statement when people say it's in the middle of nowhere. No, it's not. It's the middle of somewhere. It matters to somebody.
Right.
And that's a whole other topic. So
fair enough.
Maybe that's another episode, right?
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Stupid things we say, right? And so, and I remember out there and so these folks, I mean, they're farmers, and their plot of land that they're farming. It's not like a farm in Saskatchewan. It's you know, so there's people probably have an acreage, you know, that's bigger than some of the farms in these rural areas. So they would plant every year. The implements they were using, you know, the tools. We had some of the country directors, the people that we work with, they came to Canada, to Manitoba, and we went to an agricultural museum in a small town in Manitoba. And it showed all these farm implements, these tools that people use over the decades.
Right.
And they look at the ones from the 1930s and they're going, they said, that's what we're using now. And literally, It would be a stick with a rock tied on, and they're doing. And so they're trying to help them do all. So they're living in a very, if you think of like a consumerism, very different. The similarity, actually, it was 100% alignment. Was all they wanted to do was they wanted to make some money so they could send their kids to a better school, so they could buy medications, buy prescriptions, like buy better health care, put a roof, like go from a grass or a mud dwelling to one that had a tin roof. If you had a tin roof, you knew things were going well, and have enough to buy some extra food. That's it. And I'm thinking, all right, that's not really that different than what I'm doing. And people here in Canada, or where we'll pick the country, and the similarities, we were identical. How we do things might be a little differently, and the level of sophistication behind the communities we live in would be different. At the core of it, we're exactly the same. And this is why it's really frustrating when you hear people that get upset about, you know, people from this country or that country or this skin color or this, you know, pick your judgmental term, whatever you want. Mm-hmm. When you look beyond that, you shouldn't even have to look beyond that. It shouldn't be an issue. It is, right? That's how we're sometimes wired. We're the same. We're all trying to pursue, really, for the most part, everyone's pursuing the same thing. So then, what's the problem? Well, yeah, there's a lot of problems, but really, and so that sort of reinforced, to go back to your question, you know, when you talked about, you know, when you do like the student exchange or whatever, when you get a chance to step outside your regular environment, that's how we learn. That's how we grow. And when we don't, we get fearful, and fearful brings, you know, negativity and, you know, and bad thoughts, and it just spirals from there. And So anyway, I'll just pause here for a
Yeah.
moment. Did you guys interject with your comments or a redirection or another question or?
So living in Ethiopia, right? You spend time with the people, you spend time in their culture, right? What is it that you learned that you're like, you know what? These guys got it right and we're not doing it. You know, it's what are they doing that we're not doing over here in Canada?
So I was there for. So to be clear, I didn't live there. Just so I'm not somebody thinks that I'm like making up stories. I was there for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Still applies to your question though, because I think there was. I think what I'd say is it's this humanity of the relationships, the ability to reach out and hold somebody's hand and touch just as colleagues, you know, and just, you know, we could be like having a conversation and they might just reach out and we hold hands. Here, somebody might
Catch a case.
yeah, they might punch you in the face or kind of like, what are you doing? Like, you know, like, and it was just that humanity, that warmth of humanity, and you could see it in the smiles. And of course, there are people in Ethiopia who are not as friendly, or you know, they're just like we have here in Canada. The same idea. It's just that I saw there was this extra ability to just maybe break down that barrier of this is my zone, that's your zone, and just kind of come through that and say we're in the same zone. Right. And that was pretty cool. At first, it was like, you know, it's because it's different, right? It's just like it's like, oh no, hang on, stop it. This is great. It's just I think seeing that ability to be a little more humane towards each other, and then again, there's still like some really awful things in terms of you know how a parent might be dealing with their child who misbehave, and it might involve a stick, and you know, I don't need to paint much more of a picture. I think you can figure out how that
I think
story
we've been on that receiving end of the stick too.
Okay.
Yeah, when we're from, I think that's pretty normal. I'm not saying it should be, but I think Nikhil and I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Been through some.
So then when you're not used to seeing that, so I grew up in a house. I don't ever remember my parents saying a cross word to me.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so that the impact of that, it took me a long time to understand how conflict can be favorable and is a necessary part of some things. The extreme conflict or the whacking somebody is not necessary.
Yeah.
You see this in different places, and you can't, like, you know, internally you kind of go, okay, I understand this is different. This is a different view. It doesn't make it right. I can't you know, accept it.
Of course.
I just have to figure out where's my place in trying to resolve this. And sometimes that place is maybe just not today. I can't say something. Right. When you're in another country or something at home, it's different.
I feel like every country, every like culture and everything, I feel like they all have like a different definition of like discipline. Yeah. And how they discipline their child or how they were disciplined when they were kids. And I feel like that just keeps getting passed on. So,
of course.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I understand that difference too. So I got to ask you, in like all these years up until now, what's been the greatest lesson that you've learned? Because you mentioned that, you know, you've traveled to many provinces, this exchange student that you did, and just talking to different people, how accepting you are towards inclusion and diversity. What's been the greatest lesson that you've learned that you can instill in people now?
I'm going to say it's a lesson. I'm going to say maybe it's a lesson or a philosophy that's been reinforced.
Into you?
So which is a slightly different tact than what you're asking, because I've always believed, you know, right from the get-go, however it happened, I can't tell you. It could be the DNA, it could be just whatever.
Right.
There's always an opportunity for tomorrow to be better than today. And that's really the essence of hope. That's what it's been, and that there are ways to do that. And part of that was, you know, I'd always be trying out for things. You know, team sports seems way above than it probably should be, but you just keep pushing and reaching further. And this idea that tomorrow can be better than today, and seeing that unfold in all the different places I've gone, that's, I think, I don't know if I can call it a lesson. It's more of a philosophy that's been reinforced. 100%. I've seen that in different countries, Vietnam, Cambodia, people who have, you know, quote unquote, nothing. They have everything, because, you know, it's by someone else's standards, they might say they have nothing. They have, you know, they have everything because they may have their health, or they have the opportunity to make tomorrow better than today. And I see a lot of people that embrace that. A lot of people nowadays don't believe that. We see that in the world around us, and that people are fearful because the world is shrinking. They get scared, and we have the conspiracy theories, the disinformation, the misinformation, all these things. So I think, to answer your question, it's the philosophy that tomorrow can be better than today. And that fuels your resiliency and your ability to make it happen.
And has that helped you in every aspect of your life so far?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also, it's one of the, and as you go journey through life, there comes a time when you realize that, well, maybe tomorrow on this particular path that I'm on, tomorrow won't be better than today. In whatever, like, we're going to try to bring this project to life or whatever it is. Maybe it's time to just stop, retool it, and shift directions. Mm-hmm. And learning early in life that you can't just believe in something and say, I'm going to will this to happen. There's a point where you can call it a point of diminishing returns, or there's some other different psychological terms for it. Whereas if you keep going and going and going, it just gets worse. Think of it like a gambler. So, just one more pull of the slot machine will be the big win. Just one more. Or the chief executive officer of an organization who said, we're going to go this direction and we're going to believe in videos forever. People are going to rent videos forever. And the rest of the world around you, all the signals are there that maybe it's time to shift to like a platform like that you can rent things at home on your own, right? And you go too far because you're so convinced, and because then your pride is on the line, and you just refuse to consider something because you will have failed. You never fail. You just keep learning. I don't think failure is a word that deserves any credit. They're really learning opportunities, and that's a little bit of the glass is completely half full,
right?
But I can approach it one way or the other. I can say, well, I'm a loser, I failed, or wait a minute, that wasn't a good choice. What did I learn? How am I going to do it differently next time? That's a way better for my mental health than kind of just telling myself a loser all the time.
100%.
Yeah, well, maybe not all the time, some of the time.
Yeah, no, I feel like your mind is always listening. Like the more negativity you put into that, the more you start believing it, and the more that starts happening. I feel like it's a science too, because if you keep feeling like shit, talking like shit, thinking like shit, all you see is negativity around you. How the hell are you going to find any ounce of positivity? Because that's all you're putting in your body, right?
That's right.
Then you become that person.
Exactly.
And it starts bleeding into every other aspect of your life too.
Yeah, that's a fantastic observation, and that's why it's critical for, I'm going to say, everyone, and particularly community leaders or leaders in different whatever circles you may be, is to have that view of how do I lead in a way that inspires and helps others see that there's something different. Because if you're talking to somebody who's, because life happens, right? Bad things happen to good people, and you get a string of things. Maybe you had a great job working on a construction or on a site or something, and then you get a workplace injury, and that takes you out, let's say, for a little bit, and then it's because work gives you a lot of identity sometimes, and and it can be part of your identity. Pardon me, sometimes we give it too much, but nonetheless, it becomes part of our identity, and then all of a sudden maybe our body's not responding, and then workers' compensation says, well, we can't continue to fund you because it's time for you to go back to work. Maybe you've been taking painkillers, and then you start to get down, and it's hard to get out. You can go down real fast, and that's why it's important that all of us, all the words we choose, how we speak in ways that lift others up and not bring people down. It's a simple example I always talk about, diminishing words like but, yet, however. We need to stop those, because we all know when I say, this is a great podcast, but it could have been a lot better if. Well, what do you remember?
It's the buts and the ifs.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's enough with the buts. Like, stop it, because we're hurting people. We don't even know it. When people say it, because we do it automatically. It's the world we grew up. When we started this conversation, how we're influenced by those around us and the environment we're in. If those people are doing that, we don't know any different. We just think that's normal. We need to start pausing and saying, wait a minute, am I lifting someone up or am I pushing them down? And we need to stop it. And the best way to stop it is by talking about it. I'm talking about like it's an epidemic or something. Really, we talk about and start leading the way by avoiding the word but, yet, however. and start seeing the strengths in people and recognize. And some people get a little skeptical and go, why are you being so nice to me? Well, I'm just seeing what I see, and I'm reminding you, you've got a lot of good qualities. That was a great idea. How can I help you make it better?
Right.
Or that was a great idea, but it could have been a lot better if you had done. We just crushed them.
Right.
And we need to stop that.
Right. So now you talk about leadership a lot, and you've been in leadership positions, and you've been around a lot of leaderships. You've been to different countries, and you must have seen leaders from other cultures. What do you think defines a good leader? Like, what are some qualities that you would say, man, that's a great leader?
There's 4.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. I can answer. Hope. This is like a leader will stand on four pillars. They need to stand on the pillar of hope. That's that understanding that tomorrow will be better than today. Because as a leader, when you know that, and hope is not just, gosh, that's a wish for something. That's very different. Hope is this understanding that gives you the confidence that we can resolve this, and it helps build resiliency. Integrity, that's the second pillar. Do my actions match my words? I've seen all kinds of leaders of organizations who submit false expense claims, or they say, oh, I'm all about the people, and then they're yelling at their staff. It doesn't make, yelling has never worked anywhere in the world. It has never resolved anything. It's kept people safe when you yell and say, there's a fire over there, don't go there. Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, I'll give you that, right? Yelling doesn't work anywhere. It's never worked. It doesn't work. So the integrity of really, you do your actions match your words. People talk about, we're a welcoming environment. Well, is that CEO or executive director, whoever, or the leader of the department, are they really welcoming? Are they happy to sit and listen? And then just listen? Sometimes, a big thing is people will talk about, they'll say, hey, listen, I heard something. Have you heard about? And people say, oh yeah, I heard that. We need to stop doing that, because that person has a story to tell you. And it's like, let them tell the story. Because the minute I say, oh yeah, I heard about that, I've now quashed that opportunity for you, because you came to me, you wanted to tell me something. And that's not fair. And particularly if you think of yourself as a leader of an organization, people will come to you all the time and say, hey, have you heard about... You just need to listen, because eventually you'll put together what's really happening. If you keep saying, oh, I heard that already, we're crushing people again.
Right.
Kindness is the other pillar that you need to stand on. And kindness is strength with care. Kindness is not nice. Those are two different concepts. And kindness is being comfortable to have, we call them difficult conversations.
Right.
They're just maybe heavier conversations, with the intent of helping people, with the intent of coaching people forward. How we welcome people, how we say hello to people, how we take the time to have patience, respect and patience with somebody. That's kindness. And the other pillar that we live on is integrity. It's a little lot like, So I've talked about integrity, humility. My apologies. We need to be humble enough to understand that we don't have all the answers, and we never will. Nobody has the answers. And there's that adage that says, the more you know, the less you know. And it's very true, because as you learn more and more and more, you realize, oh, wow, I really don't know much. Right. You can become knowledgeable, experienced, or expert even in a particular area. The reality is it's not finite. There's so much more we can learn. And as leaders, we need to be humble. There's folks in the leadership world, thought leaders talk about, if you're the leader, you should be the last one to the buffet, the last one to eat, right? I think
that's awesome.
Yeah. I think you're familiar with that.
Simon Sinek.
Yeah,
right.
and it's true. And you can see it in crowds. And you go to an event, who gets served first? The head table. And I've seen people, and it's or at a social event for work. If the leader's going first, you got a problem. I've seen leaders jump the line during COVID. We had shortage of vaccinations, and I've seen a leader of an organization that jumped the queue because I'm the CEO, I need to be vaccinated. And just doing different things. You just need to be humble, and you have to have confidence. That's not an issue. The thing is, when you're humble, when you have integrity, when you stand on hope, and when you're kind, sometimes you don't actually end up saying a lot. When you do say things, your words are measured and they're appropriate for what's going on. So many leaders feel that they have to have all the answers. I have to tell you what to do. Not at all. It's actually, in fact, I probably would put inspiration as a pillar instead of humility. You have to have the ability to inspire others, because again, you can only lead if you have followers. Right. And that's not a control thing. People see it as control. It's really, you can lead through your position or your person. The person who leads through their position is the person who says, I'm the manager, I'm the executive director, I'm the CEO, I'm the supervisor. The label. You need to respect me. It's you fill in the blank with all those silly things. Right. And nobody's going to follow you. It will fall out of fear. But we're not going to maximize our performance. You're not going to actually make an impact that's possible, the potential that's possible by doing it that way. It's short term. When you lead by person, people will follow you because, as has been said before, because they're just curious. Like, where are we going? What could be next? Mm-hmm. They're curious and they want to be with you, and that's when you can inspire people. And that's not about the rah pounding on the locker room door and that kind of. It's how you paint the picture of the future and help people understand what's possible. So it's about hope, integrity, inspiration, and kindness. Leader stands on those 4 pillars. You're set. The only things that will happen will be good things.
Awesome. So Bill, just out of respect for your time as well. And what we'll do is we'll slowly drift into the final segment of the podcast, the rapid fire round.
Are we playing for money? Do I win prizes?
No, we're gonna get knowledge, and you're gonna give that to us.
Okay, fair enough. So that's all right.
Yeah. So Nikhil's gonna ask you 3 questions. I'm gonna ask you 3 questions, and you can answer it in 1 word or 1 sentence.
Okay.
Now, since we weren't able to ask this during the podcast, I'm still not gonna let that slide. I'm gonna ask you that right now. What's your why in life? Why do you do what you do? Yeah.
To inspire a better world. And that's it. Everything I do is about that, and it's a bumper sticker. It's that's my motto. That is my why, and how I do that is through how I interact with the things I do every day. It's got to be, what am I doing to inspire a better world? So how am I watching my language? How are my buts, my yets, my howevers? Am I painting a picture that is hopeful for those that I'm around? Am I the kind of person that comes into the room and everyone goes, "Oh, that was pretty draining." that was well, I guess maybe we won't invite him back for dinner, or wow, there was good energy. That's the hope. Right. Integrity. Do my actions match my words? That's how you inspire a better world. We don't get it right every moment of every day because we're human, right?
Right.
The idea though is that I'm watching myself and asking myself, am I doing this in the best way possible? And are my actions matching what my words? And my words, anyone who looks at anything I've ever written or said, is like probably 98% of it has been very favorable and hopeful and looking towards the future. When you're young, you kind of sometimes you say stupid things or things you just don't know, right? And kindness. How am I being kind? Am I bringing kindness to the space that I'm in at this particular moment? And that's just even in our thoughts. Am I being kind to myself? And when I'm falling behind on something, or I'm not quite, maybe I don't have a great swim workout, am I giving myself a hard time? Or I'm not making excuses.
Of course.
It's just like, okay, wait a minute. So what happened? Why was I a little off today? What, instead of saying, oh, I'm a terrible swimmer. I bombed that workout. I don't know why I even swim. A lot of people will jump to that. Say, wait a minute. No, I kind of stunk in the pool today. What happened? Was I tired? What was on my mind? What would change it so that I know for next time? And so really that's my whys. And so when you say inspire a better world, it's more than a bumper sticker. It's more than a t-shirt. It is truly why I get up every day. That is 100% it. And when I someday I will die. Because that's look at you guys knocking on it. Ideally, not today.
Not for a long time.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's all I want on my tombstone. He was kind. If it says that,
that's a great life.
My mission is complete.
Hey, we got to shoot more podcasts. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So, we'll get into the rapid fire round now. So what's that one very, very important skill that's missing in our generation?
The most important skill, you think?
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. So your generation, just to help me understand.
Like Gen Zs, millennials, like people in their 20s and their 30s.
Yeah. I'm going to say, so I know millennials as a whole tend to be hopeful. They tend to have a good outlook on life. I'm not as familiar. Like Gen Z, I see them a lot, and I think it's probably, again, there's this enthusiasm for what's possible. I think the biggest skill, or maybe I'll change it to quality, that quality is that it is possible when we work with all generations, because and what I say, this might actually apply to all generations. A generation when baby boomers might say, oh, those millennials, and then fill in the blank. The millennials will go, oh, those baby boomers, they're so selfish, and I'm not a sociology guy. I know that as we are as human beings, we are in cohorts. We call them generations for a reason, because we've been influenced by certain things. And there's, the pop cultures, the things that happen, the significant events in our lifetime. You think about the veterans, not specifically from armed forces, the veterans cohort, which tends to be, I guess now would be probably 85 plus, 90 plus. They grew up in a depression. They grew up in a world war, maybe even 2 world wars. Their view to the world is different, how they see things, right? Gen Z is coming up in a world that, they're living in a world that people in my generation, which is kind of bordering that Gen X boomer, we never saw. We grew up with telephones, no cable TV. And that's not a woe is us. And then we see all these things develop. So we all have different approaches as generations. I think I would say, for when you say your generation, is the biggest thing is to stop, which is a negative word, stop seeing generations as opponents and start thinking about, how do we work together? How do I leverage what I bring as a millennial or a Gen Z, or I don't even like that. I mean, labels are for jars, right? So
Right.
Can't maybe change that today, right? We need to start saying, how can what I bring to the table, my experiences, how can they work with your experiences, that we find something that works better for everyone? Because right now we're putting up walls between the generations. And I really think we are, and I don't know how often it comes up in conversations with. I think millennials will probably give baby boomers a hard time. They'll say, "Well, you're the ones that made our house prices so expensive. You're the ones that created all these corporate systems that are destroying the environment. You're the one, fill in the blank." And I just think we need to start saying, how do we work together, as opposed to, how do I hate you more? How do I dislike you more? Does that help you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm thinking let's do one more each.
Yeah, sure.
So my last question is going to be, what's one piece of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
Always believe in those ideas that you have. So the corollary to that is, don't doubt yourself. Because everything that I was thinking and hesitated, because I didn't think it was myself, I didn't think it was that's when it goes off the rails. So really, it's even more than, it's like, continue to believe in yourself, because your instincts and your ideas are spot on. They're all going to be home runs? No, they're better than you give them credit for. And that's the one thing I've learned. And if I could go back in time, so instead of doubting myself because I thought, well, this is kind of an idea that's out there. It's out there because it's a good idea. It actually would have worked if you had stuck with it, and being patient to just listen to myself.
Awesome.
What are you most grateful for in life?
My ability to learn. If I could have 2 or 3,
You can have a million.
My ability to learn and willingness to learn. I think the day I stop being able to learn, or being interested in learning, get that headstone out, because it's time.
100%.
Because that's the key to living, is learning, because learning infuses growth and so many things. And it's it's like when people graduate university, they say, "Oh, I don't want to read anymore. I'm done reading. No, you're just getting started."
True.
Because in 3 years, what you learned in university is going to be surpassed by the people coming out. Maybe 5 years, maybe even 2 years. You have to stay current. You have to be willing to learn. And I think the ability to learn, and I'm also most grateful for that, my ability to be physically active and have some, I'm going to say some successes of trying different things physically. I didn't go to the Olympics or anything like that, but you learn a lot through that. And I think the third thing would be my ability to smile. I'm very grateful for that.
Love that. And Bill, trust me, I think we need to come back for another episode.
Okay.
And sit down and dive more deeper into like your professional side.
Sure.
The mayor side of things as well.
Yep,
I
you
feel like
bet.
that'd be another awesome episode. But this is a perfect place to end the podcast. And before you go, any final piece of advice for us, our viewers or listeners?
The final piece is know that hope is real and it's legitimate, and it's what's going to get us through these hard times right now. Knowing that tomorrow will be better than today, not by sitting back and just saying it, but putting the work in to make it better. That is the advice, is that we can, because we're in a bit of a dark space right now. Mm-hmm. It's there's a lot of brightness. The darkness tends to overshadow it right now. And I think that if we understand that hope is possible, hope is real, it's a legitimate thing, and put the time in to make it work, and care about our neighbors as opposed to putting up the walls, we'll be fine. We'll figure it out.
Awesome.
Just that easy. Just that easy.
No, that's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bill.
You're
for
welcome.
being on a little perspective.
Yeah.
I know we had to cut it short this time, but we'll definitely sit down, do another
Sure.
episode, have a deeper conversation for sure.
Yep, let's get into politics, get into charities. We'll do that.
100%.
Happily, we'll
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
for sure.
That's a totally different topic. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bill. Been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Take
Now,
care.
are we going to do rapid fire?
Oh, this
That was a rapid
Oh,
fire.
that was
Yeah,
a
yeah,
rapid
question.
fire.
Right.
Okay. I was like, what's my favorite animal? Or what's my favorite?
We can actually do like one more question. We got like 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry to disrupting your production there.
Oh, no.
I was
That's all
waiting
good.
for the zoom.
I feel like one question that Nikhil and I really love, and
Okay.
that's his question. I'm going to use that
Gotcha.
just to get to know you a bit more. What's your favorite restaurant in Regina?
So with deference to everyone who has a restaurant
enough.
in the city, I've had my partner she and I, we've had really great success and experiences with the Hangout in East Regina.
I see. It's something new, right? I haven't been
It's
there.
fairly new. I
Okay,
think within
yeah.
the last 6 months.
Okay.
The owner is he's super engaged with the customers,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got an excellent menu. It's priced reasonably, and the food is fantastic.
Really?
And I think it's underappreciated. And people need to check it out. It's a Hangout on Quant Street, and it's well worth checking out.
Perfect. Well, that's where everybody should go then.
There we go. That's
Perfect
it right
marketing
there.
pitch. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for being on A Little Perspective.
Oh, it's thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.